double. MetaShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 844-45-BIBLE. That's 844-45-BIBLE. 844-45-BIBLE.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bourne.
And I'm Danica Bourne.
And we're the owners of South Coast Tax. We would like to thank our Lord for protecting us from evil. Psalm 91 states, He is my refuge and my fortress, for He will rescue us from every trap and protect us from deadly disease.
South Coast Tax are Christian-based tax accountants and attorneys who specialize in releasing bank levies, wage garnishments, and filing complex tax returns. We are the leaders in acceptance of offers and compromise with awesome results.
We are also a small firm who will treat you like family and not just a number.
Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176 for a free consultation, and we'll take the time to explain all of the programs that you qualify for in order to allow you a fresh start.
In John 8:36, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And one way we can achieve that is by being debt-free. So let us help you today. Call us at 1-800-TAX-1176, and together we can help achieve this goal by putting the IRS tax debt behind you for good. Again, that number is 1-800-TAX-1176.
Seth Talbot here again with my father, Pete, announcing that right now, streaming free on salemnow.com is the amazing production of Against All Odds, Israel Survives. This incredibly successful 13-episode docudrama was originally produced by producer and creator Bill McKay and highlights the miraculous hand of God in the formation and protection of the state of Israel.
Seth is right. It's a spellbinding experience. But you should also know that we are now going into pre-production of Against All Odds, America Survives. Also a 13-episode docudrama that highlights the many unknown but obvious miracles that took place in the formation and protection of America from Jamestown through World War II. And it'll be ready for viewing by this summer.
But remember, a special presentation of Against All Odds, Israel Survives, is streaming right now for free on salemnow.com. Witness how God has blessed and protected the state of Israel. Streaming free right now on salemnow.com. Again, streaming free on salemnow.com.
Tonight will be cloudy with a couple of late night showers. Expect a nighttime low of 47. Tomorrow will be breezy with occasional rain and drizzle. Tomorrow's high 52. Breezy tomorrow evening, otherwise cloudy skies, the low 28. Saturday will be windy with intervals of clouds and sunshine. Expect a high Saturday of 36. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm Drew Shannon.
Welcome to another edition of The Ride Home with John and Kathy, live from the Salem Pittsburgh studios. And now here are your hosts, John Hall and Kathy Emmons.
Greetings. Thanks for coming along. What is today? Oh, the Thursday. We're Thursday here.
It's the Thursday sunshine edition.
Well,
it's the vitamin D there
we go.
Of the Ride Home. It was super vitamin DE, but now it's slightly
It's fine.
Overcast.
You know, there is a patch, a large patch of forsythia.
Oh, yeah? In your yard?
Nope.
Okay.
On the Parkway East, of all things.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
I look at that. I always see that. It's like the first thing that, arises in springtime. I saw it today and go, well, here it is. Spring is here. The forsythia on the Parkway East, along with the litter.
I have, along with all the,
the road detriments.
I have, see, this sounds like a brag now that I'm saying.
what are you bragging about?
I just had a forsythia in my yard.
You have it?
Yes. It's not blooming yet.
It's not?
No.
Is it probably in a shady spot?
It's actually not in a shady spot, but it's not blooming yet.
Interesting.
Watch, I'll go home and it's blooming.
Probably.
And I haven't noticed.
Forsythia is valuable to a lot of us because it is deer. The deer don't care about it.
Oh, do they actively dislike it?
They just stay away from it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they won't eat it. They eat everything else in the history of the human race.
Yes.
But they choose to avoid that.
Not eat that. Okay.
Fine. Yeah, we had when my mom passed away, we planted a lilac bush.
Uh-huh.
It's been almost 20 years. I planted that thing. It's maybe 3.5 feet high.
Oh, wow. It's
regular.
I have a hard time. We have lilacs I love the smell of them, but they're a pain to grow.
Yeah. You ever heard of deer? They are. Why are they a pain for you? Because you don't have a lot of deer out there.
They're slow growing. They're super slow
But they're so
growing.
beautiful. Don't they smell incredible?
Yeah, but they just don't fill out. Listen to me complaining about them. They just don't fill out very much.
Right.
And so I'm a little annoyed with my lilac right now. It's a personal thing.
The forsythia is a no-show, and she's annoyed at the lilacs.
Yeah. It's going to be a great 2 hours sitting in the same room with me.
The crabby edition of the ride home.
Coming up on that edition in the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to talk about the self-help craze that America was obsessed with 100 years ago.
Affirmations. A little affirmation going on.
Then we're going to have Eddie Jones and Justin Coaxum come in and talk about the importance of men's ministry.
Yep.
And is it dorky?
What?
Some people feel like I'm not going to the men's ministry because it's going to be dorky.
You're asking me?
I'm just saying that's a concern. I'm going to ask Eddie Jones and Justin about that.
Okay, all right.
And then you can answer if you want.
Nope, I'll leave it to them.
Also, why living in the mountains could be the best thing for your health.
That'd be nice.
We'll talk with Tom Hall from First Presbyterian Church downtown about their 250th anniversary.
That's crazy.
That's just...
A church is celebrating their 250th here in the city.
Right, not in Europe.
Wow.
Okay, we'll talk to Tom Hall, and we have a top 4 in just a minute if John will let me get... Don't hit that button yet.
Oh, right. Don't hit that button. All right. You want some news?
I mean, I have some that I'd like to share.
Is it crabby?
No, I don't think
Crabby
it is
news?
crabby. No, there's a couple things that I think might make you happy.
All right.
It might make you crabby. I can't speak for you, John. You're just going to have to listen.
Don't you like when people say, oh, it's the Good News Network? And you go...
Who says that?
You see that occasionally. That's
Like
the Good News Network.
You mean...
We're delivering good news.
Oh, you mean the website?
Is it a website?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I like that website.
I've never seen it.
Well,
I'm always a little suspect.
because you think it's dorky.
Anyway, without further ado, here's some news, good, bad, or otherwise, the top 4 at 4.
Oh, my God. It's Thursday, the 16th of March, 2023. Number 1, John, are you ready?
Tell me.
Excellent. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen today sought to quell concerns from Congress that despite the collapse of 2 banks in the last several days and ongoing consumer jitters about the state of the financial services sector, the nation's banking system nonetheless is strong. In testimony before the Senate Finance Committee and reported by CBS News, Yellen touted the government's decisive, forceful action to strengthen public confidence in our banking system after Silicon Valley Bank abruptly failed nearly a week ago and was taken over by the FDIC. Yellen highlighted in her opening comments the Treasury Department's work with the Federal Reserve and FDIC to protect all depositors, that's all of us, and reiterated the taxpayers would not be bailing out Silicon Valley Bank's investors.
If Janet Yellen was your friend, you'd want to have her nickname be Stop. Hey, stop yelling.
Hey, that's funny. I didn't get where you were going there. I liked it, though. Number 2, you're never going to believe this. A ban on TikTok in the U.S. or a sale of the app by its Chinese owner ByteDance will not resolve national security concerns or fears TikTok could be used to siphon Americans' data, according to a new cybersecurity report obtained by ABC News. And wait till you hear this. The report said the app still has your data, even if you've never used TikTok. And it's collecting and transferring that data, whether or not the app is deleted. How about that? Nice. TikTok can be present on a website in pretty much any sector in the form of TikTok pixels or trackers. In some cases, they immediately just start executing and have little to nothing to do with your browsing.
I surrender.
I can't bear it.
Doesn't even
Web
matter.
pages associated with everything from airlines and e-commerce sites to tech companies and state and federal governments are riddled with TikTok's trackers called pixels. They immediately link to data harvesting platforms that pick off usernames and passwords, credit card and banking info, and details about your health. Are you in despair over this, Lexi?
Nope.
Yeah.
Just go live in the mountains.
The company told ABC News today that since June, all new U.S. user data has been routed to the Oracle Cloud, and since October, access to that secure environment has been limited to employees of TikTok. Well, I don't know who they are. TikTok said it will continue to move forward with a plan called Project Texas to safeguard U.S. user data as it evaluates the administration's position. That's crazy town.
Here's what I heard. Blah, 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 blah. Seriously, blah, blah, blah. More of that.
Number 3.
Got some good news?
Baseball umpires will have a new view this season on Zoom. The MLB struck a deal with Zoom Video, allowing on-field umpires to watch videos being evaluated by replay during contested calls. Until now, the on-field crew chief listened to the replay umpire in New York with audio only. The umps walked over to the side of the field to listen on the headset. You know, that silly thing. Last year, they switched to a wireless belt pack, which looked like they were going to, take off.
Cryptocurrency.
On-field umps this year will have a 12.9-inch iPad Pro brought out to them by a tech. Then they'll be connected to Zoom and the Replay Operations Center so they can see what replay is being viewed.
Great.
The umpire still gets final call.
So instead of take me out to the ball game, it'll be unmute your mic.
I guess kind of.
Yeah.
You can read more about that at ABC News. And number 4, 3 local teams all in March Madness, which started today. Penn State plays Texas A&M tonight at 9:55 p.m. Pitt versus Iowa State tomorrow at 3:10. And if you don't want a spoiler, then turn your radio down. Ready? 3, 2, 1. West Virginia lost to Maryland this afternoon, 67-65.
I had West Virginia moving forward. They were my dark horse.
All 3 of us did.
They
That's
were.
your top 4.
I had all 3 teams, Pitt, Penn State, and West Virginia, winning their first.
Me too. 2 points.
West Virginia, buzzkill already.
The Maryland, those silly terrapins, those turtles. I mean, good grief. Anyway, that's all I got for you, John.
All right, that's good. That's more than enough. Believe me, it is. Okay. What's next?
Okay. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Jesus being enough. Jeremy Writebol will be with us next. Plymouth, Michigan. It's the Thursday edition. Right home.
101.5 WORD.
The biggest annual outdoor celebration of Christian music happens right here in Pennsylvania. And Word FM is making it easier for you to go. Creation 2023. This year's lineup includes Katie Nicole, We the Kingdom, Big Daddy Weave, Mac Powell, Micah Tyler, Switchfoot.
Very excited. Yes, I am.
Why pay full price? As a Word FM listener, your ticket is 50% off.
Did you get your tickets?
Go to wordfm.com for access to your half-off tickets for Creation 2023.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. The IRS just rolled out a new program to help struggling taxpayers more easily resolve their tax problems. It's called the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, and it opens up powerful new options for people looking to get back on the right track with the IRS. And no one knows this program like the professionals at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution company. They've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients and have the expertise and experience to help you. One easy call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries of wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Make today the beginning of your fresh start with the IRS. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief now for your free confidential consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Late summer this year, you can join Alistair Begg on a fascinating Mediterranean cruise.
We'll be visiting Split, Croatia, a city with a bustling waterfront, ancient ruins dating back to the Romans. History that we've only read about will come alive before our eyes. Views unchanged from the time of the Apostles' travels. And in it all, being able to look to the Bible as we look into our world and realizing how God's Word brings light into the darkness in so many places.
Join Alistair Begg for a once-in-a-lifetime Mediterranean cruise. Immerse yourself in the wonder of some of the world's most famous cathedrals, museums, and works of art. We'll be sailing on Norwegian Cruise Line's newest ship, the luxurious Viva. For details, log on to deeperfaithcruise.com. Then call 855-565-5519 to join. 855-565-5519. Inspiration Cruises and Tours is a trusted partner of Salem Media Group.
Rhema Christian School is enrolling now. Rhema is a private school in Moon Township serving children in preschool through 8th grade. Recognized for its commitment to a biblically integrated curriculum that nurtures a Christian worldview and academic excellence, Rhema aims to develop the whole child, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially. Rhema is a true true community of families who desire to raise up the next generation of godly leaders, also offering programs for homeschool families. For tuition and enrollment information, visit rhamachristianschool.org.
Well, if the pandemic taught us anything, and of course it taught us a lot, it's that you got to love on your pastor. Because how difficult is it to be a pastor in the midst of chaos? Well, Jeremy Writebol is with us. His brand new work is called Pastor, Jesus is Enough. Hope for the weary, the burned out, and the broken. And Jeremy's a pastor himself. So Jeremy, welcome to the show. Have you been burnt out?
Oh, hi, John. Hi, Kathy.
Hey.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I've been burned out.
Yeah.
It's one of those hard things where you get to a season of ministry and life, and you feel completely tapped. There's nothing left, and you don't know what you can do to make things better. You don't know. You don't have the spiritual resources to even feel like you're serving anyone, and you're just at the end.
Yeah.
It feels that way in so many cases, and so. That's something that I really wanted to be able to address and help other pastors walk through and navigate is where are those resources, where are those spiritual realities that exist for us in the midst of seasons of burnout and depression and weariness and all those things that just are part and parcel, I think, of pastoral ministry right now.
And all of you were burned out and depressed before COVID. So, I mean, I'm not trying to, but look, things were dicey before the pandemic hit, and then they just became dicier. We've talked a bunch of times about, Jeremy, the figure that something like 42% of people who are currently pastors are not just looking for a different church to pastor, but looking to get out of the whole occupation. I'm sure that number doesn't surprise you, but I mean, for our listeners to think, why would someone want to leave being a pastor? You want to fill them in?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so just yesterday, Barna released that study that said, 2 in 5 pastors have seriously considered quitting in the last year from ministry. And I mean, that's just a staggering number. And then you have added to that, I believe it's Gallup who does a poll every year just on the ethical viability, if you will, of certain vocations. And pastors have dropped 20%. So now it's somewhere around 35% of the American population views a pastor as credible or having integrity, of just being ethical in his job. So you have congregations that look at pastors. You have just the general populace that looks at pastors and says, those people are probably not ethical. They're probably not trustworthy. And that's the majority opinion right now in our culture. And then you have just the spiritual components of what you're trying to do in pastoral ministry. So you have the week-to-week preaching and teaching of the scriptures and leading a congregation there. There's the pressure of wanting to see a congregation grow and flourish and be active in the community and engaging people that are far from God and lost and help bring them into a discipleship relationship with Jesus Christ. You have the needs of the church itself, and especially when crisis moments and trauma hits just day after day, and those are surprise things. You don't know when someone in your congregation is going to die, and you've got to be on the spot ready to attend to that family and care for them and minister in that way, or a whole host of other needs and issues that go on. And you've got to watch your own soul. You've got to be a good father or mother. You've got to take care of your family. You've got to serve them well. And all these things are just there. They're just, it's wearying. It's exhausting.
Yeah,
and
I
so,
bet it is. And
yeah,
Jeremy,
so for a pastor, it's hard.
They don't teach you these things in seminary, do they?
No, I did not get a course on how to manage a pandemic or how to navigate cultural transitions and shifts and
how to live through a presidential election and maintain your church.
No,
all these things. Okay, so the good news is, Jeremy, of course, Jesus knew this, and Jesus spoke about this, talked about this. He wrote about this, directed it, as you say, to the church. But the church essentially also is the pastor. So in your research for Pastor Jesus is Enough, you sort of amplified this and go deeper in this. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I really love the 7 letters to the churches. Some have called them the 7 sermons to the churches that Jesus speaks at the very beginning of the book of Revelation. And as we here at our church, I'm in the Detroit metro area, so Woodside Bible Church, and we're part of a larger multi-campus church community here. Back in 2018 and 2019, we were beginning to have a senior pastor transition and a succession plan. And one of the things we wanted to be careful about was making sure that we as a church held to and put the eye on what things might cause us to drift from our theological convictions, our methods of ministry, those sorts of things. And so we began to study the 7 letters to the churches in Revelation. And as I was working through and studying those and preparing sermons on those passages, it occurred to me that Jesus wasn't just speaking to churches as a whole, although he is doing that. He begins every letter with saying, to the angel at the church. And some think of that or interpret that to be a spiritual reference. But I believe, particularly because of what Jesus says to the church there and to that individual, I believe Jesus is speaking to a pastor. And so that word could be translated messenger. Jesus is speaking to the pastor and saying, hey, in your life, these things are there, and you need to address them. Maybe there's some things that you need to repent of, that you need to acknowledge and to deal with, because they're not only affecting you, but they're also affecting your ministry and the church as a whole. And so when Jesus speaks those things, he's speaking to us as pastors. And that was what I was hoping to begin to engage and help pastors see the way that Jesus addresses these issues is with himself. He doesn't give, 10 steps to a better pastoral ministry or, 5 ways to get your church up off the ground. He just offers to the pastor and to the church himself, who he is. And so every letter begins with a viewpoint of Jesus and his glory and in his power and his all-sufficiency. And every letter concludes with a promise to them, to the one who will overcome. And that overcoming is found in our union with Jesus Christ. So because we are in Jesus Christ by faith, what's true of him is true of us. And it's just beautiful, 7 beautiful letters that Jesus has to these pastors about their ministry and how he is enough for them in everything that they're dealing with and everything that they're trying to navigate through in their culture and in this empire of Rome at that time too.
We're talking with Jeremy Writebol. He is the lead campus pastor at Woodside Bible Church in Plymouth, Michigan. His brand new work is called Pastor, Jesus is Enough, Hope for the Weary, the Burned Out, and the Broken.
Jeremy, I love these letters to the churches. I think they're fascinating. I mean, there's so much in there, and just the idea of it is it's a little mind-blowing. But the thing that I'm thinking about as you're talking is how specific they are, and how intimately Jesus knows what's going on in that church. And I think of how isolated our pastors feel. Pastors one after another come on our show and said that, there's nobody I can talk to, or, I just don't feel.
Who do you trust?
Anyway, it's just, I would guess it's so encouraging to read how Jesus knows your church, knows what you are, and there's good and bad. Right. So this is the first one. This is Ephesus. I know that you cannot, I know your deeds, your hard work, and your perseverance. I know that you cannot tolerate wicked men, that you've tested those who claim to be apostles but are not and have found them false. You have persevered and have endured hardships for my name and have not grown weary. I mean, that is awesome, right? Yet I hold this against you. You've forgotten your first love. Right. So, I mean, it's good and bad, but man, every one of them's different.
Here it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jesus says to each church, I know you. And then speaks about them specifically in a way that is connected to their context and to their culture. And so that one in Ephesus, he's looking at a church that I think by every metric, if we were to see that church in the United States today, maybe if you were to see that church in Pittsburgh there, you would say, well, that's a great church. Everybody should go to it. You're going to be served so well. It's doing all the right things. It's great. And so the ministry resume looks awesome. The reputation of the pastor is probably fantastic. And yet the word that Jesus has there is, you've lost your first love. And the way I take that and work through that in my book is to say, how often do we replace a love for Jesus as priority over and instead with a love for ministry? We would rather have a great ministry than maybe we would a great love for Jesus. And Jesus doesn't want ministry to become something that competes with his affections. And so Jesus, in addressing the church in Ephesus there, is really speaking about rightly ordered loves, I think as Augustine says it. And what's first in your heart? Is it the ministry? Is it your resume? Is it the success of your church and all these great things that are there? Or is it me? And he invites that church, that pastor really to come back to him in repentance and to seek to do the things he did at first, which is just cultivating that abiding relationship and love for Jesus day after day.
So, Jeremy, I'm sure, in your writing, in your time in prayer and research to produce Pastor Jesus is Enough, you had to rely in some ways on a community. What's that like for you? I mean, do pastors, is there a community in, pastoral relationship in your area where you kind of sit in a room and go, doors closed, everything's on the table, I trust you implicitly, what I have to talk about, what I have to share will not leave the walls of this room because, you're working along beside me, you're suffering along beside me, you know exactly what we're all facing.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to be a part of a church that is multi-campus. So we have 14 distinct church locations around the metro area of Detroit. And I get to sit in that room with those 14 other campus pastors. That's great. And we do those things with each other quite frequently, if not very weekly even. And then also to have what I might call a spiritual director. So I have a friend who I get to be with at least once a month, and he just takes me before God. I mean, that's how I feel about it with him. Is like I can say to Rusty, here's what's on my heart, and he's like, okay, let's just go pray and let's just talk to the Lord about this and rest in His presence. And so I think it's crucial for pastors to have other pastors that will be a support to them, that they can be open with and transparent. It's crucial, I think, for pastors to have counselors and spiritual directors in their lives that can be that advocate for them and that source of help and encouragement. And we just need each other often to point each other to Jesus and say, hey, Jesus is enough. He is the one who will sustain us and strengthen us in all of life and for all of ministry. And so it's essential.
And for your parishioners to be aware of this as well, right? For the members of your congregation to go, hey, I'll pause before I send that nasty email or say something silly or stupid to my pastor because it's not really going to help things.
Right. Yeah. That's so needed. And so I hope this book helps serve that way.
Very good.
The new book is called Pastor, Jesus is Enough. Hope for the weary, the burned out, and the broken. You can get it wherever you get your books. Jeremy Writebol has been with us. Jeremy, good to meet you.
Yeah,
Thanks
nice work, Jeremy.
us.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Truly it is. Hey, we'll take a quick break and come back. We're just getting underway. It's the Thursday edition of The Ride Home, Pittsburgh's Christian Talk on 101.5 Word FM. That's WORD.
This is Kathy Emmons. John and I are grateful for the encouragement we have from all of our advertisers and especially our friends at Grove City College. Thanks to everyone at Grove City for supporting The Ride Home.
Inflation is pushing up the cost of just about everything: food, gas, clothing. But life insurance, which thanks to inflation you need now more than ever, actually costs less today than it did a few years ago. Now is the time to get the insurance you need at a price you can afford. Call SelectQuote now and we'll help you save more than 50% on term life insurance. In a hurry? Don't worry. With SelectQuote, you can get up to $2 million in instant, same-day coverage with no medical exam. That's right. Get up to $2 million in instant, affordable same-day coverage with no medical exam in under an hour.
Call SelectQuote now at 1-800-507-2266. That's 1-800-507-2266. Or go to SelectQuote.com now and get up to $2 million in instant same-day coverage with no medical exam. That's 1-800-507-2266.
Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-333-1750. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-333-1750. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-333-1750. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds, too. Call 800-333-1750. 800-333-1750.
Roofing, siding, or remodeling?
Want it done right, call Doing It Right.
724 New Roof.
We are everywhere on your radio at 101.5 WORD FM Pittsburgh, at wordfm.com, the Word FM mobile app, iHeart, TuneIn, and Odyssey.
Did you know 40% of Pennsylvania homes have elevated levels of radioactive radon gas? Testing is the only way to know if your home is at risk, and it's easy as 1, 2, 3. First, buy a test kit from your local hardware store. Run the test in your home following the package instructions. Act on your results if they're high. Contact a certified radon mitigation company for help. For more information, go to dep.pa.gov/radon. Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Tonight will be cloudy with a couple of late night showers. Expect a nighttime low of 47. Tomorrow will be breezy with occasional rain and drizzle. Tomorrow's high 52. Breezy tomorrow evening, otherwise cloudy skies, the low 28. Saturday will be windy with intervals of clouds and sunshine. Expect a high Saturday of 36. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm Drew Shannon.
This from Pew today. Judaism is the most favorably viewed religion in the United States.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
According to Pew Research, despite a rise in anti-Semitic incidents across the country, Jews scored a plus 28 rating in the analysis released yesterday. The study also found that Americans generally view Roman Catholics and mainline Protestants favorably, but tend to view Muslims, atheists, and members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, commonly known as Mormons, negatively.
Really?
Non-evangelicals tend to view evangelical Christians more negatively than positively, the study showed, although evangelicals eked out a plus 2% net favorable rating when the opinions of born-again and evangelical poll respondents were factored in.
These sound like March Madness odds.
Without these beliefs, without these believers, and without mainline Protestants, the evangelical cohort rated a minus 14 favorability score.
Oh, that's tough.
Based on a survey conducted September 13th to the 18th among 10,900 U.S. adults, the Pew analysis found that people who know someone from a particular religious group are more likely to have positive views of that group than Americans who tend to view their own group positively. The study also noted political differences in how respondents viewed religious groups. Pew said the study's methodology differs from those of 3 previous studies of American views about religion. Studies in 2014, 17, and 19 used a, quote, feeling thermometer to gauge views on a 0 to 100 scale. The latest study asked respondents to rate groups very favorably, somewhat favorably, neither favorable nor unfavorable, somewhat unfavorable, or very unfavorable. Mm-hmm. Respondents also could say that they don't know enough to say. This is interesting. The highly favorable rating for American Jews comes at a time when criminal and non-criminal acts of hate against Jews have increased. The FBI recently released data from 2021 that showed a 16% rise in anti-Semitism assaults against Jews, and that single bias against Jewish hate crimes, which comprised a little more than half of all religious-based crimes, jumped 20%. Oh my God. From 638 in 2020 to 817 in 2021. Now, this is interesting. A spokesperson for the Anti-Defamation League in New York City said the group is heartened to see Pew's study, but added that, quote, we have evidence that suggests that those with prejudices generally hide behind I don't know responses, which here make up almost half of response groups for each of the religions in question. In the case of Jews, minus 58%. The spokesman from the Anti-Defamation League said that having positive feelings about Jews will not preclude a person from holding dark beliefs about a Jewish cabal or global conspiracy. The Anti-Defamation League says that the subject requires, quote, more research, and we look forward to collaborating with Pew moving forward.
Well, I thought it was good news at the beginning.
Yeah. You can drill down on those numbers and make numbers work for you basically any way, I think.
So crazy people are hiding in the I don't know category?
I don't know.
Yeah, but that's what she's saying. But we don't really know if that's true.
Right.
I don't know. I mean,
it's a survey.
I was going to say,
surveys are so deeply inexact, and it's just it doesn't mean it's truth. It just means someone's opinion, and it may not even be a truthful opinion.
In which case, why does anyone poll anything?
Well, because we like polls, right? Pew does a good job overall.
Well, I don't know to be happy or sad. I guess I can be both about that.
It's just numbers.
All right. After the commercial break, Reverend Tom Hall will be back with us. 250th, you heard me right, 250th anniversary of First Presbyterian Church downtown. We'll talk about it next.
101.5 WORD.
Word FM welcomes back the Projecting Hope Film Festival.
Presented by the Speakman Financial Group.
For 3 days, it's fun, faith-focused, family-friendly films for free.
Absolutely free.
You pay for the goobers and raisinets, but the popcorn and admission is free. $0.
It's better when it's free.
Movies including A Marriage Made in Heaven, Family Camp, and the brand new Jesus Revolution. It's at Pittsburgh Mills Cinemas, March 24th through 26th. For movie times and to make advanced reservations, go to wordfm.com.
Doing it right, roofing, siding, and remodeling. The first Owens Corning MVP in Pittsburgh and one of the longest tenured platinum contractors in the Pittsburgh region. Doing it right, roofing, siding, and remodeling. Call 724-NEW-ROOF. That's 724-NEW-ROOF.
Want it done right, call Doing It Right.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bourne.
And I'm Danica Bourne.
And we're the owners of South Coast Tax.
We started our company 10 years ago in an effort to help our fellow Christians experiencing tax issues resolve their matters by taking a simple 3-step approach.
South Coast Tax are Christian-based tax accountants and attorneys that specialize in releasing bank levies, wage garnishments, and filing complex tax returns. We are the leaders in acceptance of offers and compromise with awesome results. We're also a small firm who will treat you like family, not just a number.
Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176 for a free consultation, and we'll take the time to explain all of the programs that you qualify for in order to allow you a fresh start.
Proverbs 15:22 says, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176, and together we can help achieve this goal by putting the IRS debt behind you for good. Again, that number is 1-800-TAX-1176.
Ryan, I know that zit is the size of Rudolph's flashing nose. And Ryan, I know you've struck out the last 13 times at bat, but it can't last forever. I think we've all had moments where things aren't going great, but someone reminds us that better days are ahead. This is one of those moments. It's Ryan from United Faith Mortgage, and luckily, interest rates are not forever. I had a friend say to me the other day, Ryan, we've been dreaming about a new home, and home prices have finally slowed up a bit. But now, interest rates are up, and we don't know what to do. And the reality is, that zit won't last forever. We're seeing hundreds of listeners buy the dream home today while they can, with the plan to refinance tomorrow when rates settle. And will help a bit as well. Word FM listeners get a $1,000 lender credit at closing. And our direct lender advantage often allows us to get you a better rate, saving you monthly and lifelong money. We are United Faith Mortgage.
United Mortgage Corp, Melville, New York. NMLS number 1330. Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities. Mortgage lender license 22672.
Roofing, siding, or remodeling?
Want it done right, call Doing It Right.
724-NEW-ROOF.
Here in the United States, you know, someone lives in a house that's 100 years old. You go, man, that's an old house. Now, Kathy, you were in Europe and you saw houses.
I couldn't believe how old. It's just everything here just seems like a flash in the pan compared to it.
But when you think about the city of Pittsburgh and its origins going back several hundred years, what's fascinating is really the first structure, the first sort of this is us in the city of Pittsburgh is a church. And Tom Hall's with us. He's the pastor of First Presbyterian Church, 6th Avenue in downtown Pittsburgh. Tom is with us to talk about the 250th anniversary of First Pres. Tom, welcome back to the show.
It's always great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure, Tom.
So 250 years. What was going on in this region when the church was founded, and how do you know when it began?
That's a great question. A lot of things to cover in that question. Remember 1773, the nation was in the throes of trying to figure out are they going to declare independence or not.
Yep.
And Pittsburgh was a dirty and gritty frontier town. It was lawless in many ways. We have a map of 1773 downtown, and there were more bars, I think, more taverns, but there was one church, and it was First Presbyterian Church was on the map back then. Wow. When we look at the founders of the church, when you look at the log cabin, the seating plan of the log cabin church back then, their names are Denny, who was the first. Ebenezer Denny was the first mayor of Pittsburgh. Neville, Wilkins, O'Hara.
Is that
so,
right?
So these guys were founding the city. They were founding the nation. There were many. I think there were 40 officers who fought in the Revolution that were members of the church. So they were figuring things out, and church was one of the things they were figuring out. So in the first 50 years, by 1837, they were sending missionaries overseas.
What?
And, of course, missionaries to the Native Americans and to the settlers.
Really? Okay, so then the first pastor, do you have his story, where he came from and how the church came together? I mean, what was that even like? I mean, you can imagine, as dirty as Pittsburgh was, it also had to be beautiful. I mean, the hillsides, the green. I'm sure, it was still an outpost on the way west.
Well, they were trying to figure, they were trying to figure out, is this going to be an upper-class church or is this going to be a working-class church? So there were the Lutherans, they were the upper-class kinds of folks, and there were the Ulster Scots. They were the working-class folks, and that both came together in First Presbyterian Church. And it was actually, that was decided by the minister in 1787 when he went to the legislature, and they wanted to there was a big faction in the church that wanted to make it kind of an ecumenical, a house of worship with a generic name.
Interesting.
But the minister at the time, he wanted to make this First Presbyterian Church, and that's when it ended up being. By an act of the legislature in 1787, the charter was a Presbyterian congregation.
Interesting. And what about the location? Is the current location the first location?
Correct. So the downtown churches, including us, we have a sheepskin hanging on the wall signed by John Penn, William Penn's grandson.
Wow. Is that right?
Yeah, it's one of the cool artifacts of the church. So,
and what does it say on it? What was the sheepskin?
It just describes the plot of land. It was the Penn family gave the downtown churches, or the early churches, the burying ground. And over the years, as they built the church buildings, they dug up graves to make room for the church buildings. So there were Native Americans there were British soldiers, there were Revolutionary War soldiers. So when they built a log cabin there in the late 1700s, they built a brick building. They tore the log cabin down and built a brick building in the early 1800s. In 1853, they built large Gothic building facing Wood Street. And then they tore that down in 1902 to build the building that we have now. But both of the last two times, the big controversy, the trustees of the church directed the members to dig up the bones of their relatives to build a bigger church. And so in 1902, that included the names I just mentioned, Denny, Neville, O'Hara, the leading citizens of Pittsburgh, and they had elaborate funerals as they moved the bones, moved the remains to Allegheny Cemetery or wherever a family member wanted. And there are still 50 sets of remains, I believe the number is 50, in the crypt in the basement of the church of names of people who could not be identified.
I mean, if anything's Pittsburgh, First Pres is...
It has to be.
All Pittsburgh.
Right.
So
and there's so many things that came out of First Presbyterian Church over the years. What became Pittsburgh Theological Seminary, well, they were founding theological education back in the 1780s. And so they founded a Western seminary, along with other Presbyterian churches, by the way. They were founding the Mission Society that became the Presbyterian Mission Agency today. So it wasn't just First Presbyterian. A lot of the Presbyterians that settled in Western Pennsylvania came together to form the Western Mission Society. And it's interesting, in 1837, that model was adopted for the entire Presbyterian Church in the U.S. So a few years ago, the director of World Mission for the PCUSA came and spoke to us, and he said, "Did you know there are 95 million believers around the world today that came out of that first mission that met, the mission society that met in First Presbyterian Church?"
Wow.
So when you feel sorry for yourself, when you feel, church is declining, God did an amazing thing through that little log cabin church.
Yes.
A long time ago.
And so there you are. And coming up, you're going to celebrate in a grand fashion, rightfully so,
yes,
the 250th anniversary.
Correct.
Tell us about that.
So that's April 23rd. We're going to have just a wonderful, we hope, a joyous worship service. We have pipe and drums that are going to lead us out the front of the church and up the street. The police are going to escort us to the William Penn Hotel. And we have a grand luncheon planned after worship service for that afternoon. Our speaker will be the Reverend Dr. Scott Sundquist, who's the president of Gordon Conwell Seminary in Massachusetts. Wow. And he's a friend of the church. In fact, First Presbyterian Church has a long history with Gordon Conwell Seminary. When it became Gordon Conwell Seminary back in the 70s, the minister at the time, his name was Bob Lamont. He was friends with Billy Graham. Mm-hmm. And so they were integral in creating that seminary.
Wonderful. Okay, so the date is April
23rd. Our worship service starts at 10:45 as usual on Sunday morning, and hopefully it'll be a great day, a glorious day. I know it will.
And all are invited.
Everyone's invited. I would say the lunch, of course, is that's a ticketed event, so we hope people will go to our website, check on the 250th anniversary tab on our webpage, fpcp.org. And we hope that they would join us for worship that day and then stay and be part of the celebration luncheon. You know, I would think that every Christian in this area, every Christian in Pittsburgh, especially us evangelical types, would be encouraged by what God has done through our church for 250 years. And, you know,
it's amazing.
We're not any different in so many ways than any other church, but the singular focus has always been the gospel of Jesus Christ. We, as clearly as we can, we proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's, you know, churches have mission statements and they try to reinvent themselves, but we haven't had to reinvent ourselves because that's the focus has always been on the gospel of Jesus Christ.
So to be part of the celebration, fpcp.org.
Yeah, First Presbyterian Church, fpcp.org. Yes.
April 23rd, fpcp.org.
Yes.
We're talking with Tom Hall. He is the pastor at First Presbyterian Church, downtown Pittsburgh. Tom, any idea on the number of pastors? I mean, you're part of a long lineage. You must pinch yourself sometime. How many men have been pastors at First Pres?
Well, I'm the 15th senior pastor. I don't know how many associates there have been or how many pastors the church...
That means people have stayed for a long time.
Yes. Yeah, so I've been there 14 years, which I think may be about the average.
I see.
Okay.
But we have heard from so many of the previous pastors who they so want to come back. I think we have RSVPs from people in 11 states so far. You know, when I took this call, I was amazed. I could be on a river somewhere out west and run into somebody who knew the church or knew of its reputation or had been touched by it. There was such loyalty to this church. It's so meaningful.
Yeah.
It's so meaningful to them.
Wow.
Wonderful.
That's a long... I mean, people talk about the Steelers. Oh, we've had 4 head coaches in 50 years. I mean, how many? Did you say 17 or 16?
I'm the 15th senior pastor.
That's fabulous. What's it like, Tom? Do you go and sit in the church? I mean, in quiet moments, is there a pose to sit there? I often think about all the different people, all the babies, all the newlyweds, everybody who comes into a church. What a wonderful position that you have to sit there and to be surrounded by this holy group of people who are present with you in the worship of Christ for all those hundreds of years, and they're at First Pres.
I could talk to you for hours about that, because people, when you visit a city in Europe, you go to the cathedrals, right?
Yeah,
you go to the great churches, and we are one of those churches in Pittsburgh, maybe, again, the first one, but we're one of those places where you would go, and we do our very best. We keep the church open every day during the week. And people come in from all over the world. They're amazed at the place, and they tell us, God's Spirit is here. This is a thin place. I've had people from all over the world talk about their experience of the presence of God.
They call it a thin place.
A thin place where God seems to be close.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
This world and the next world.
Fabulous. A thin place. FPCP.org. First Presbyterian Church celebrating their 250th anniversary. I just love to say that. April 23rd.
Yes.
The worship starts at 10:45.
10:45, yes.
And then a ticketed luncheon at up the street, the William Penn.
Yes. Yeah, and they can find all about it on our website. Yeah.
Give us the website, Tom.
FPCP.org.
Tom, truly, congratulations.
FPCP.org. We're so happy for you, Tom.
We really are. This is an incredible experience.
It's a pleasure to talk about it. I pinch myself. We are so blessed to be part of this great legacy of the people that have gone before us. They've kept the faith, and that's what we do. We do our very best to lift up Christ in everything we do.
Amen. I mean, if you're a believer here in Western Pennsylvania, this is the Mother Church. So on the 23rd of April, it'd be wonderful for you to show up and to celebrate the rise of Christ in this once outback, somewhere in the middle of the wilderness, and what we have become, the Smoky City, then the Tech City, the Medical City. First Pres, April 23rd. Congratulations, Tom. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, John.
Our great pleasure. FPCP.org once more. You go there and find out more information about First Presbyterian Church and Pastor Tom Hall. Enduring faith at First Pres.
A lot more coming up on today's Ride Home. Stay close.
As the world is being affected by a global food crisis, families in the poorest countries cannot afford to eat every day. With your loving gift, you will provide life-saving food for families and mothers like this.
I ask God for help for my children and to give us bread to have something to eat.
For over 40 years, Food for the Poor has worked with local ministry partners to bring life-saving food to hurting families. Thanks to generous people like you. But now, more than ever, your help is needed to give food to truly starving families. Will you give a gift of $144 to provide a family of 4 life-saving food for the next year? Would you answer the prayer of a mother and a family in desperate poverty right now?
Will you give right now? Call us toll-free, 855-828-4673, or click the red Give Food banner at wordfm.com. Or from your mobile phone, text the word Send Hope, one word, to 91999.
Tens of thousands affected by the toxic water at Camp Lejeune are left with death, cancer, Parkinson's, dementia, birth defects, and other serious illnesses. And along with the harm, so many worries.
My family drank the Camp Lejeune water. What if our health gets worse and we need more financial help?
How do I protect my VA benefits and get the compensation I deserve and need?
The answer is simple. Call James Harris Law, the experienced, trusted law firm that can get you significant compensation while protecting all your VA benefits. We're already fighting for hundreds of Marines, families, and civilians who drank Camp Lejeune water. But if you miss the deadline, you could forever lose your right to the justice you deserve. So call our Camp Lejeune legal helpline now. Now may be your last chance to receive full compensation. Don't delay. Call 800-299-7878. That's 800-299-7878. 800-299-7878.
Bachman's Roofing and Solar is your local award-winning roofer. Stop waiting. It's time to inspect your roof and protect your home's #1 asset. With no interest and no payment financing for 12 months, Bachman's Roofing is your easy choice for roofing, gutters, and solar. Did you know Bachman's Roofing is one of the #1 GAF solar integrated roofing installers in the USA? Go with Bachman's. Go with solar and install the roof that pays for itself. Call 412-744-8390 or visit bachmansroofing.com.
Eden Christian Academy celebrates 40 years of providing Christian education to thousands of children in the North Pittsburgh area. At Eden, students are engaged in an education where dedicated faculty go above and beyond as they teach, connect, and are used by God to help transform the lives of every student. March 13th through 17th is Admissions Week, a perfect time to learn how Eden can equip your child as a critical thinker and caring leader in today's world, pre-K through 12th grade. Learn more at EdenChristianAcademy.org.
It's National Panda Day.
I was hoping you were going to say National Pancake Day, but we've already gone through
we already done that. It's National Panda Day, also National Spray Tanning Day, which I think is hilarious. Now, maybe I shouldn't step out and say this, but I think I'm going to. I just am never, ever spray tanning, just ever in my life.
Would that be by yourself, like with a bottle, or going someplace where they do that?
Either way.
Well, what if some people do spray tan, like when they're going to a wedding, right? They give a little glow to themselves. I get that.
Lex, have you ever spray tanned?
Not at all.
Nope.
How about a bed tan?
No.
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 What do you say? Holy smokes!
I would never do that.
That's big business, isn't it?
No, you've done that.
I have never done that.
I thought you had done it. I thought you had done it.
No, I did the isolation tank, like Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, right.
No, he did the 4 days. I did the hour and fell asleep.
Let's just back it up. Aaron Rodgers did 4 days in a dark room with a light switch on the wall.
Well,
So, listen, if you know you can rescue yourself at any moment if things get hanky, then it's not really a darkness retreat.
No, it is.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I think it is a darkness retreat.
With an escape pod.
Everybody wants a lifeline, right?
At arm's length.
Everybody wants a lifeline.
A lifeline, there could be a little bell on the door.
A bell?
There's he just flicks a light switch if, there's a bad dream. And that's why he ended up as a New York Jet.
Yeah. All right. Well, no. So National Spray Tan Day. So that must mean that there is a National Spray Tan organization that they would raise awareness of this, right?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's also National Artichoke Hearts Day. Is that a thing you enjoy?
No.
Lex?
No connection.
Artichokes are so good.
Really? Yeah. I have no connection to that. I was in a show once where you opened up the refrigerator and 100 artichokes fell out of the refrigerator. It was a great sight gag.
Oh, really? Do you remember what play that was?
Curse of the Starving Class.
Okay.
It's a Sam Shepard show.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because when Martin Short was on SNL, he lived in an apartment building and he had a crush on Tina Turner. I don't know if you remember this.
I don't.
And Tina ended up, I think she ended up living in his apartment building and came down one day to borrow eggs from Martin Short. Yeah. Who was Ed Grimley. I hesitated to mention that. I'm sorry.
I must say.
Yeah. So Ed Grimley is so overwhelmed with this. He's so thrilled that Tina Turner is asking for an egg. He goes and opens the refrigerator, and all he has inside are onions.
They come tumbling out.
They are everywhere.
Again, another sight gag.
And he says, I must say, I don't. And in all the little egg portions, there's like a little onion in each one. So maybe he got it from the Sam Shepard.
He may have, yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Anyway, happy National Spray Tanning Day.
Yeah,
whatever you choose.
Day. Yeah.
There's something about the healthy glow, whether it comes from a bottle or not, is all I'm saying.
Coming up next, we're going to talk about the self-help craze that was all over America 100 years ago.
101.5 WORD-FM Pittsburgh. On your smart speaker by saying, play the word Pittsburgh. And on your phone via the Word FM mobile app, iHeart, TuneIn, and Odyssey.
Use the code ERIC.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. Correspondent Sean Murphy reports that a legal challenge presented before a conservative judge in Amarillo, Texas yesterday could threaten regulators' approval of a drug that is used in abortion pills. the most common method in ending pregnancies in the U.S.
This judge in Amarillo, Texas, a federal district judge appointed by President Trump, heard arguments from the plaintiffs in the case, and they are a conservative Christian group, Alliance Defending Freedom. They argue that the FDA should withdraw its approval of this drug because the approval process was flawed and that the drug is more dangerous than the FDA has indicated.
On Wall Street, stocks shook off an early stumble and have since gained ground. The Dow is up 280 points. The NASDAQ leading 246. This is SRN News.
You've spent your entire working life paying into it, so don't you want to get the most out of Social Security, squeezing it for all it's worth? Hi, this is Ethan Lane with Accurate Solutions Group. Our team can help show you ways to do that with our free Social Security report. It's a great first step to learn how your benefits can play a role in your overall retirement income plan, especially because the Social Security Administration can't give you advice. It's different for everyone, and there are a lot of factors that go into knowing exactly how to maximize your benefits, but based on the decision you make, you could end up with tens of thousands of extra dollars in retirement simply by being informed. Get this free Social Security report from Accurate Solutions Group by texting the word security to 412-515-3555. That's security to 412-515-3555. Investment advisory services offered through ASG Investment Management, LLC. Firm offers insurance services and is not affiliated with the U.S. government.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bourne.
And I'm Danica Bourne.
And we're the owners of South Coast Tax. We would like to thank our Lord for protecting us from evil. Psalm 91 states, He is my refuge and my fortress, for He will rescue us from every trap and protect us from deadly disease.
South Coast Tax are Christian-based tax accountants and attorneys who specialize in releasing bank levies, wage garnishments, and filing complex tax returns. We are the leaders in acceptance of offers and compromise with awesome results.
We are also a small firm who will treat you like family and not just a number.
Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176 for a free consultation, and we'll take the time to explain all of the programs that you qualify for in order to allow you a fresh start.
In John 8:36, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And one way we can achieve that is by being debt-free. So let us help you today. Call us at 1-800-TAX-1176, and together we can help achieve this goal by putting the IRS tax debt behind you for good. Again, that number is 1-800-TAX-1176.
Hi, I'm Olivia, and I'm 11. Some people my age might think water in a basement's pretty cool. Who wouldn't want an indoor swimming pool? But my dad taught me a thing or two about homes.
You mean all those times I talked about waterproofing? You were actually listening?
Absolutely. I'm like Alexa.
Okay, so how does J&D Waterproofing protect your home?
By keeping water out of the basement so it doesn't compromise the structure of your home.
And?
By not giving yucky mold and mildew a place to grow.
Pretty good.
Dad, I wasn't finished.
Oh, sorry.
And J&D Waterproofing can save you money.
Do tell.
By saving you from having to replace your basement appliances from water damage.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Got water problems? Don't cry. Call 1-800-VERY-DRY.
J&D Waterproofing. 1-800-VERY-DRY.
Tonight will be cloudy with a couple of late-night showers. Expect a nighttime low of 47. Tomorrow will be breezy with occasional rain and drizzle. Tomorrow's high 52. Breezy tomorrow evening, otherwise cloudy skies, the low 28. Saturday will be windy with intervals of clouds and sunshine. Expect a high Saturday of 36. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm Drew Shannon.
Welcome to another edition of The Ride Home with John and Kathy, live from the Salem-Pittsburgh studios. And now here are your hosts, John Hall and Kathy Emmons.
You look around at the year of 2023 and you think, wow, this is crazy. Things are out of control. Well, go back 100 years to the 1920s and think about America. World War I had just finished. America was part of the Allied victory. And then the introduction for the first time ever in the electrification of the home. Right before that, indoor plumbing, that was fairly new, and the radio. All these things dramatically changed the way that Americans interacted with each other.
Not to mention the automobile.
Yeah, all these things, right? Along with that, there was a rise in something called spiritualism, where people were leaving their established religions and looking at a modern way of engaging with what some would call a higher power. Now, there's a story about a man with this self-help craze. And self-help...
it's everywhere. It's always been.
It has been, right? So way back in the 1920s, there was a Frenchman, and his name was Émile Coe. And he was known as the Miracle Man from Nancy, France, whose auto-suggestion craze...
A-U-T-O?
Yes, one word, auto-suggestion craze, was briefly the biggest thing in America. For a period in the 1920s, millions of Americans grabbed their string of rosary-like Coe beads every day. They stood in front of the mirror and repeated the French phrase of self-affirmation, which, when you say it today, sounds ridiculous. But in the 1920s, it was a thing. And the phrase is, day by day, in every way, I am getting better and better. Day by day, in every way, I am getting better and better. In the early months of 1923, in the history of the 20th centuries, this little dried-up Frenchman, as he later was known, Émile Coe, he suddenly was the most talked-about spiritual person in the United States of America.
Where are you reading from?
From yesterday's Washington Post. Coe's enthusiasm for mannerisms waned when he found that he was able to induce hypnosis in only a small number of his patients. Now, like all things,
he was a snake oil salesman.
He was, but he grabbed onto something, this affirmation, and then he came to America after he was, in air quotes, successful in France. When he came to America, it exploded. Millions and millions of people bought these Coe beads. He became extremely wealthy. He held events from one city to another where people showed up looking for healing, for peace. He would always say...
And no Jesus included.
No Jesus, not in any way straight. No, no Jesus. This was about self-actualization. Every way and every day, I am getting better and better. It was relying on
just
myself.
Patently ridiculous with looking at the human life.
It sort of sounds like something you would see like...
It sounds like something you'd see on a TV talk show.
Or Forrest Gump in some ways, right? It's Gumpish. He called this self-conscious auto-suggestion, and a cult surrounded him. The reception for the so-called mental healer was gigantic. Now, of course, like all things, popularity comes and goes, and it wanes.
He was very in before he was extremely out.
Yes. January 4th, 1923, he arrived in New York City aboard the SS Majestic, preceded by a tidal wave of media buzz generated by post-World War I savvy American followers. But by the end of the 20th century, he was a has-been, a scoundrel in many ways.
Okay, so people thought I paid, I don't know how much for my Coe beads, and they haven't done a thing.
They haven't done anything. My self-actualization, my auto-suggestions have failed.
And I'm not getting better day by day.
No. In St. Louis, some 5,000 people showed up. In New York City, more than 15,000 people showed up. But here's the weird thing. When you think about where we are in America today, these ideas live on. Dale Carnegie, Norman Vincent Peale, Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey in the O magazine not that long ago urged her followers, quote, look at yourself in a full-length mirror. Now, compliment yourself. Yes, I can do it. Repeat these empowering words aloud every morning and every night.
I could never do that.
Mm-hmm.
I could never talk to the mirror. I just want you to know.
John
There's
Lennon,
no way.
in 1980,
Yeah.
wrote a song called Beautiful Boy, which included these lyrics. Before you go to sleep, say a little prayer. Every day, in every way, it's getting better
Is
and
that
better.
right? Are those the lyrics to the song?
Yeah. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Yeah. I mean, so it became part
Right.
of the American
Who's
fabric.
the guy we went to see at the arena?
The sales guy.
Yeah.
I forget.
Oh, I can't think of his name.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's the same thing.
Well, he's a sales champion, right?
Well, the best sellers
What was
the best sellers are the ones who believe that they are getting better and better every day.
But
So it's just another permutation of it, right?
Now, to be fair, don't you think there's some power in
Yes.
talking yourself up?
Yes, of course
In
there's
a brutal
power.
world, you've got to say
if
to
there
yourself,
was-
come on,
if
man.
If there was nothing to it, he would never have gotten
right.
powerful.
You
So
have to speak
there is
kindly to
something
yourself.
it. It's just only a part of the truth. It's
Right.
not the whole thing, which is why it can't live forever.
Yeah, because left to my own devices, I'm a train wreck.
Who's looking in the mirror when they've done something horrible and say, I'm just getting better?
Every day,
every
in
day,
every way,
way,
I'm getting better and better.
When clearly that's not true.
Yeah. Fads come and go, right? Cults come and go.
Yeah.
People need something to grab onto, right?
Yep. Speaking of something to grab onto, the local church has saved me from so many circumstances in my life, has provided comfort and encouragement, and has provided work and difficult conversations and great conversations. And anyway, it's been wonderful. I'm not a man, but I know a lot of men swear by a men's ministry based in the church. So we've invited two guys to come and talk about it. Eddie and Justin are in the On Deck Circle. They're going to come in and tell me why men's ministry really matters. We'll talk about that next. Stay with us. Thursday edition of The Ride Home.
101.5 WORD.
What happens when you open God's Word every day? I'm Alan Jackson, and I have the privilege of joining you every weekday here on the radio. I see the transforming effect of God's Word daily. Lives are changed because His Word gives us insight for the challenges we face and encouragement in our walk with the Lord. Join me and let's see what God has in store for us today.
A fresh look at Scripture, weekday mornings at 9:30. Alan Jackson Ministries on 101.5 WORD.
Spring is in the air. Spring is everywhere. Hi, it's me, Marcia from the Spring House, and spring is a great time of year on both our farm and our store. It kicks off with farm tours, and we just love sharing our farm with all those precious young folks. Graduation party season and wedding and shower season start up now too. So my sister Jill and her catering crew are on the road in our red Springhouse vans almost every day, delivering homemade country cooking to families all over the Tri-County area. My brother Sam and his farm guys are busy this time of year planting corn and pumpkins and hay, along with getting the cows milked and fed 2 times a day too. The Springhouse store crew loves serving all the families that come to visit, to enjoy our homemade lunches and suppers, to take a zing down our hillside slide, and to top off their experience with a Springhouse ice cream concoction like a strawberry ice cream shortcake. Come see us and let us share a little of our farm with you at the Springhouse. 724-228-3339 or springhousemarket.com.
Let's be real, retirement is expensive, and inflation is making it even harder with the cost of everything going up from pet food to a dozen eggs. Wouldn't it be great if the cost of your health care could go down? Well, Medishare 65 Plus is $99 a month for ages 65 to 74. And for many with Medicare Parts A and B looking at other options, that's 50% or more saved per month. No gimmicks. It's $99 a month, and you can use any Medicare-approved doctor or facility, and you get 24/7 access to telehealth from the convenience of your home. Better yet, Medishare is a Christian nonprofit organization. It's a community that'll pray for you and encourage you. And since we've cut out the middleman, you get to keep the savings. Call now. You can learn more about Medishare 65 Plus. Here's the number: 833-SHARE-55. That's 833-SHARE-55. 833-SHARE-55.
Rhema Christian School is enrolling now. Rhema is a private school in Moon Township serving children in preschool through 8th grade. Recognized for its commitment to a biblically integrated curriculum that nurtures a Christian worldview and academic excellence, Rhema aims to develop the whole child, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially. Rhema is a true community of families who desire to raise up the next generation of godly leaders, also offering programs for homeschool families. For tuition and enrollment information, visit rhemachristianschool.org.
Okay, so what do you think about when you hear the words men's ministry? Men's ministry.
Well, it seems like they all start at like 6 in the morning.
A lot of guys get together early, and do those prayer. They get together. We got guests back in the studio from Eternal City Church in Wilkinsburg. Eddie Jones, Justin Coaxum, they're pastors at Eternal City. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you
for being here.
Our pleasure. So you're here today to talk about something, men's ministry. It's got a bad rep sometimes, but it also does a lot of great work. So, Eddie, you start out. Talk about Eternal City. Men's ministry has been around for how long?
Well, in our church, we just started in January.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. We just started a men's ministry in January called The Foundry. Based on the whole Pittsburgh Steel thing. Yeah. So we thought that was a cool name for it.
Excellent.
So we call it The Foundry. And what we do, we meet once a month. As a group, but we're going through a book right now, Kingdom Man by Tony Evans.
Mm-hmm.
We're reading that book. Yes, very good. It's my second time reading it, actually, and it's very good. So we're going through that book, and we went through the book of Genesis, chapter by chapter. We read a chapter every day.
Fabulous.
And went through the book of Genesis. We just started the Gospel of John a few days ago. So we're doing this from now up until June, the first 6 months of the year. We're doing this men's ministry. We'll take the summer off and then start up again in the fall. But that's what we're doing right now, going through Scripture, reading Kingdom Man by Tony Evans, and we do an on Zoom call meeting once a month, and then we meet physically. Actually, tomorrow night we'll be meeting at our local church.
Okay, so you're meeting in the evening. You're not meeting at 6 a.m.
No, we're not meeting at 6 a.m.
That's good. So, Justin, talk about it from your perspective. I mean, if it's brand new, this has been percolating within Eternal City for a while. The need for men's ministry.
I think there's a need for it. And what's interesting, I've never said this to Eddie, but I'll say it now. We had a guy from the church pitch the idea to us.
Really?
And when he pitched it to us, I thought, this is not going to work. It's too high of a commitment. We're meeting once a month. We're doing 8 a.m. Zoom calls on Sunday. We're doing meetings on Friday evening, and we're going through the Bible in a year, and we're reading a book, and we're pairing guys up to meet with each other once a week.
Wow.
I was like, that's way.
That's a lot.
It's not going to work. I was more of the mind of like, hey, let's do like a quarterly men's breakfast. Someone will pray at the end. Yeah, let's start slow. And we've done that in years past, and it's worked out just fine. What I found interesting about this is that I think because we set a high bar, almost 100% of the men in the church as members and associated with the church have jumped in.
Get out.
Yes.
Wow.
I think for men, we like a challenge, and I think the challenge of that whole thing, I think that really motivated and encouraged the guys to jump in with both feet, and they have.
Fabulous.
They have. Yeah.
So the need, obviously, I mean, this is talked about a lot in the church, that for the most part, men are less likely to show up for church.
Right.
If they do show up for church, they're sitting in the back, non-participants. Talk about that, Eddie, about guys who would become part of the church and be engaged in the life of the church.
Well, you're right. A lot of churches, if not most, are full of women, which is great and awesome.
Yeah.
But it seems to be harder. Seems to be harder to get men involved in church, or at least committed. They may go, but that's pretty much it. But that's not what God has called us to do as men. When you read Scripture, you don't see that. You see men in leadership, men doing what God has called them to do. God has used women, obviously, too. But men are the ones who are in leadership, and one is God is called to. And God challenges men. And I think one of the problems the church has not, I think they've been afraid to challenge men for fear of losing them. I think that's been part of the problem. They've been afraid to challenge them for fear of losing them, so they'll take whatever they can get. And I don't think that's the appropriate approach to do that. I've been involved in men's ministry for years, most of my salvation life, all of my salvation life. And it's been such a huge asset and blessing to me. I don't know where I would be without it, actually. I've struggled with my own manhood for years, and the men's ministry has helped me to do that. And one of the things the purpose of it is to help you to be a man, to teach you what it means to be a man. And I think that's one of the main focuses, and that's what this book does by Tony Evans. Teach you what it means to be a man, what a man and what a kingdom man is, what a man of God is, and how he is to conduct his life. And so I think that's very important, very important. And I think the women appreciate that.
I'm sure they do, right? I mean, we live in really weird times, right? I mean, guys are, for the most part, checked out or absent. There's a lot of drug abuse, a lot of alcoholism, a lot of guys hanging out playing video games. Talk about that, Justin. How do you, whenever this idea came up, I mean, I'm always interested in sort of like, Genesis stories. That first idea, suggestion from someone in the church going, this is my idea, and then it goes to, guys in the church. You're having conversations. You're saying, I get it. I mean, it seems like an awful lot, a high bar. What was that like? I mean, church leadership sitting around talking about this, wanting to do this, but also knowing there's a lot of baggage that goes with it, not with only just Christian men, but men in society.
Yeah, I think what tipped the scale was, one, the need you mentioned, right? Men in society. Like, anytime you hear about a mass shooting, a crime being committed,
lonely, disaffected,
it's going to be a man most of the times. And that's the sad reality. And we realize as a church, that's the primary people that if we reach them, we can have a greater impact on society. Not that we don't want to reach women and children, but we just realize that, especially in family settings, the presence of a man who's being responsible, who wants to do the right thing, has a tremendous impact. And so we wanted to, certainly as a church, since we were founded, had a core commitment to try to reach men. What happened this particular time was we had a guy, he's been a member of the church for some years, and he just brought the idea to us, and we were talking about it as elders. And I think what tipped the scale for us is to say, we have a member of the church who wants to do something. Why should we get in that person's way? And if they fail, or if there are lessons that are learned, great. But oftentimes what happens with men's ministry and a lot of ministries is it's like, well, the pastor's got to preach, he's got to do small groups, he's got to do Sunday school, and then he'll do the quarterly men's breakfast when he has time, because you just don't have that much time as a leader of a church to do all that and try to fit in a men's ministry.
Right.
And I think what's been really beneficial about this is it's been, for the most part, a lot of members of the church who are men who are driving it, who are getting the opportunity to lead and be challenged and do something and commit to something that's beyond just come to church, listen to me or Eddie talk, or go to a small group and talk about your feelings. It's like, no, I got to read the Bible. I got to get up and talk to these guys. I got to engage. I got to organize a plan about how we're going to shape the men of this church. And I think it's really been something that, because it was member led, was something that we said, hey, let's try it and see where it goes.
Fabulous. Okay, so decades ago, something called Promise Keepers swept the church, right? It had a rise, an apex, and then for the most part, in many ways, it's kind of faded away. Eddie, talk about that. I mean, when you look at different patterns that the church has followed, has there been sort of something you kind of go, this was worthy, this was good, or we can set that aside because it wasn't necessarily had a long sort of reach for the church?
Well, as far as Promise Keepers is concerned, I mean, they're still around. They're just not as visible as they used to be.
I mean, they used to be a gigantic movement, right? I mean,
stadiums.
Filled up Three Rivers Stadium.
Exactly, yeah, which was great. And I went to those meetings myself, and they were very, very beneficial.
Super exciting.
But I think I think even Promise Keepers says this, the main thing was not the large gatherings, but what goes on in the local church. That was what their focus was, what they were trying to get men to do, was to be active, responsible leaders in the local church and in the local communities.
Yeah.
And so, we can start out with these big events, but eventually these are going to end, and you guys need to go home and live out what you heard in these stadiums.
Keep it going.
You know what I'm saying? So keep it going, exactly. Don't let the fire go out because, you're not around 50,000 other men. You know what I'm saying? So,
Justin Coaxum, Eddie Jones are with us from Eternal City Church in Wilkinsburg. Here's what I love, guys. When I'm in a room full of other men, and you know how it is. You set aside your ego. You set aside your drive. All the things that makes guys, for better or worse. And men commit to praying. Isn't that powerful?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, absolutely. When you get past the surface level, talk about the game, talk about my family, talk about what's going on at work, and you get into the actual vulnerability of men admitting their need for God collectively together, I think it's extremely powerful.
Yeah, it is. I've seen that. Yeah, it is extremely powerful. And you have to kind of prod men to do that because we won't do that naturally. But at the same time, when I'm around a bunch of other men, we're around a bunch of other men who are also being vulnerable and opening up, and see the response from other men that are supportive and loving, then you say to yourself, okay, well, wait a minute, maybe I can quote unquote spill my beans too, without being judged and without being looked at in a certain way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
And so men, that's important for men.
Sure.
Men will talk about things and discuss things around men that they will not discuss around women.
Sure. And the reverse is the same as well.
Yeah, so.
Eddie, you mentioned that men's groups were formative for you throughout your spiritual life. Can you talk about the first one you went to? Because did you go to one before you were a believer?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
So you went to one. What was it like? Were you freaked out? Was it?
Actually, no, I wasn't. It was my church's men's group. We started probably back in the late '80s, maybe.
Okay.
And I was excited about it.
Were you?
Yes, because I loved.
And was it already? Was it established before you showed up, or
no?
Okay.
It was started after I got there, but I was excited about being involved with a bunch of men in the spiritual setting. To be built up, to be encouraged, and to be affirmed as a man. That was very important for me, to be affirmed as a man, because I struggled with feeling inferior as a man for most of my life, and so that helped tremendously. So that was probably the first men's group I went to was probably in the late '80s, and then Promise Keepers came along, and I would go to that, and then every church that I was involved in, I think, I had a men's group. Yeah, so I've always been involved in men's ministry. So
it takes a while. This is just my experience. It takes a while for guys to trust each other.
Yes.
Right? I mean, like what goes on in the walls of this room should stay within the walls of this room. Right. I don't want to be going out on the street and talking about that guy's got that problem and he's dealing with that. That trust thing is difficult to come by in the local church. Can you talk about that? I mean, how do you talk to each other? I mean, you want to be authentic. You want to be strong, but at the same time, it takes a while to build that trust up with each other.
It does. We have men in the group that have been in the church for sometimes, in some cases, years. And I've never gotten below that like surface level, like, hey, how you doing? How's your family? How was the game?
It's not real.
And it's not real. And what's helped us is, I think, just the multiple times that we've been able to engage face to face or over Zoom or so we have a private Facebook page where we share updates every week, and guys post what's called a challenge video where they talk for 30 seconds about, here's my testimony, or here's the first time I learned the gospel, or here's a man who I learned a lot from. And I'm normally, like, especially in church settings, pretty anti-social media because I don't find it helpful. People just argue. No. But it's been really interesting to see people open up in that medium where they don't have actual live conversation. They can just record a video, and then you see the person in person, and you get to follow up like, oh, I saw you posted that. Well,
That's
tell
cool.
me more. So it's been, I think, just approaching it from multiple directions has helped men open up.
I love it. So it's a closed group on Facebook.
Yeah, it is.
That's gutsy, guys.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you know how it is. I mean, it's midnight on a Saturday night. People can go off.
Right.
And then you show up for church on a Sunday morning, and there's that guy. Maybe. That's really gutsy.
Yeah. It's been a blessing. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you hope? I mean, you start something with, a vision and dreams, and there you are at Eternal City. The hope is that not only will you become sanctified and stronger and engaged in the community, do you see this moving forward? Is there some larger vision, or is it maybe it's not? It's just enough. You don't have to build it into something. It's just enough to show up and be real.
I think so. Yeah, show up and be real. And what's interesting is we have men who are longer in their Christian walk, 20, 30, 40 years. We also have teenagers.
Right.
So what I look forward to is if this becomes a thing that you're doing every year, people sort of grow up in the men's ministry and remember when I heard from that Christian who was 30 years my senior, who's gone to be with the Lord, and now I'm 5-10 years in as a believer, and I can look back on that as a formative time.
That's really powerful. I mean, I've gained so much from that in my church. Hanging out with old heads, and now I am, and I go, oh look, there is some. I've gained a little something here.
Right,
that's powerful.
One of our core commitments as a church is challenging and training men to lead sacrificially, and so this obviously fits right into that, and is part of what will help men to do that, to be challenged and trained to lead sacrificially, to lead their families, their churches, their communities sacrificially. And so this is definitely part of that, and that's what we're hoping would happen, that men would grow up in their spiritual walk and become leaders and trained in righteousness and be leaders in their families, communities, churches, and wherever else God would have them to lead.
I mean, if that would be true, right? If that would really come to fruition. We've been talking off and on over the last couple of weeks about the revival in Asbury, and people talking about, I mean, can you imagine like a true men's revival in this country? The Holy Spirit coming upon believers first, and then the fire going out into the communities. It changed this country for the better forever, Justin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think of all the times where you see the bad report on the news of a guy gets in trouble, he's committed a crime, and if men really were under some type of revival, how much good would we see in the world? How many marriages and children will we see saved? How many communities will we see restored? How many things will we see put back together? You drive in certain communities and you see just dilapidated house after dilapidated house. Men can fix those things. And if we get together and work together, I think there's tremendous opportunity. So I agree with you. Revival would be amazing, but also I think tangibly beneficial to society, because that's I think I heard before you were talking about self-help. That is the nut that everyone, even inside and outside of the church, is trying to crack.
Right.
Is how do we get men particularly to take responsibility for their actions? Even if you talk to people who are in school settings, how do we get boys to behave? All of that, I think, would be tremendous if we had a revival among men.
I'm into that.
Yeah. We need to step away. Can you guys stay with us for a bit? Okay. We're going to continue our conversation. I mean, I wasn't involved, but I was nodding.
As you're wont to
Justin
do.
Coaxum and Eddie Jones are with us from Eternal City Church in Wilkinsburg, so stay with us. More conversation ahead.
Oil investments involve a high degree of risk and actual results may vary. Oil and natural gas keep going up as the Russia conflict escalates. Get in on the next major oil boom now and help the U.S. with your patriotic investment that can potentially pay you monthly income for up to 20 or more years. That's the sound of a producing oil well and the sound of a smart investment. If you're an SEC-accredited investor and have at least $25,000 liquid now, you can take advantage of Encore Energy's projects and a huge tax savings for this year. If you invest in oil and natural gas, you're allowed to write off nearly 100% of your investment in the first year. Goldman Sachs is projecting oil to go up to $100 a barrel, and natural gas is the fuel of the future and trading at record prices. Call 800-287-6691. Encore Energy is a major investor and experienced operator in its core area of operations. Call now and learn how to deduct 100% of your investment and create 20 or more years of potential monthly income. Call 800-287-6691. That's 800-287-6691.
If you have an IRA or 401k, please listen closely. My name is Jason Hansen. I'm a former CIA officer and New York Times bestselling author. Throughout my career, let's just say I've been in some hairy situations. And I believe right now the biggest threat facing Americans is they need to protect their wealth, which is exactly what I'm doing for my wife and 6 kids. And I believe the ultimate safe haven is physical gold and silver. You can protect your hard-earned retirement assets with a tax-free loophole that allows you to convert your retirement into physical gold and silver. The folks I use are Advantage Gold, and believe me, I've investigated the heck out of all types of people. Advantage Gold is the nation's highest-rated gold company. They have the best process, pricing, and service. If you want to get your free gold and silver investment kit, please contact Advantage Gold right now, and you'll see how easy it is to protect yourself with precious metals. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Call 800-900-8000.
Bachman's Roofing and Solar is your local award-winning roofer. Stop waiting. It's time to inspect your roof and protect your home's #1 asset. With no interest and no payment financing for 12 months, Bachman's Roofing is your easy choice for for roofing, gutters, and solar. Did you know Bachman's Roofing is one of the #1 GAF solar integrated roofing installers in the USA? Go with Bachman's. Go with solar and install the roof that pays for itself. Call 412-744-8390 or visit bachmansroofing.com.
Discover the magnificence of the Mediterranean with Alistair Begg and our trusted partner, Inspiration Cruises and Tours. 9 life-changing days of powerful worship, Bible study, and history. Sign up now, deeperfaithcruise.com.
Listen on your smart speaker at wordfm.com, the Word FM app, iHeart, TuneIn, and on Odyssey. In your car or at home, too, at 101.5 WORD-FM, Pittsburgh.
Tonight will be cloudy with a couple of late-night showers. Expect a nighttime low of 47. Tomorrow will be breezy with occasional rain and drizzle. Tomorrow's high 52. Breezy tomorrow evening, otherwise cloudy skies, the low 28. Saturday will be windy with intervals of clouds and sunshine. Expect a high Saturday of 36. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm Drew Shannon.
Before the break, Eddie Jones, who's with us in studio from Eternal City Church, was talking about men's ministry at his church. Justin Coaxum is here as well. And Eddie said that men's ministry throughout his spiritual growth was of great impact. It was, in all sectors of his spiritual growth from the beginning to now, it had a great impact. And all I could think of was, what are those things for me? If I look back on my spiritual journey, what are the things that really mattered? The things that pushed me forward. So for some people, it might be a men's group. For some people, it might be a neighborhood Bible study. For some, whatever it is. So I just thought I'd throw out the question to those of us in the group, and I'm eager to hear what you guys have to say.
Okay, so wait. So define it again. The question is.
Yeah. So along your spiritual journey.
Yeah.
What are the things that have mattered? So he said men's ministry was a really crucial part of his development. Mm-hmm. So do you guys have another thing that was crucial in your development? Maybe I'll go first and kind of tell you what I'm thinking.
Yeah, sure.
So as you were talking about men's ministry, this is going to lead into children's ministry, because I was a kid in a church. I was from a split family. My mom was a believer. My dad wasn't until late in life. And so it was my mom and I alone going to church every Sunday. And I hated going to church. Not because I hated God, nothing, but I was a little kid and I didn't know anybody who went to the church. So I felt like I was completely alone. But I was never allowed to skip. So we would drive up to the church on Sunday morning and we would walk in, and I'd have like a little girl panic attack about going into Sunday school. And my mom would say, okay, I'll sit here on the bench with you, but we're not leaving. Mm-hmm. And after a while, it became my second home. Do you know what I mean? Once I got over the hump, it became my second. Having a church home is what changed me. Mm-hmm. So whether I was a little kid, I was a junior high kid, I was a senior high kid, I was a college student, I was single, I was married, like in all of those phases, the local church is what mattered in my life. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was discipled in the local church. I had people who made me laugh. I had people I cried with in the local church. I had people who helped me bury my parents. I had people who helped me raise my kids. You know what I mean? I've only been in 2 churches my whole life.
That's crazy.
2 churches my whole life, and they've shepherded me through all of those things.
Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, I get that. For me, and I think probably this is true for a lot of men, I was raised in the church. When I was a teenager, I fell away from the church, and I wasn't interested for a long time. But then what happened? I got married, and I had kids. That drew me back. The big thing was when we bought our first house, we, by the providence of God, we bought our house across the street from a pastor. So I'm out there, and this guy starts talking to me. And it was an easy invite. I mean, I was really ripe for this. I was ready for this. Come on down on a Sunday. Check me out. See how you like it. And there's just a change when you become a married man. Things change. They just do. It made me a different person, and it made me want to be a better man and a better father. And I think that I've been trying to stay consistent within those confines of that. And especially, I'll say this, and I don't want to offend anybody by saying this. I was raised as a Catholic. But when I came back to God, when I came back to Christ, I didn't go back to the Catholic Church. I came to a Presbyterian church. And again, because my neighbor was a pastor. And becoming part of the church and having relationships and showing up and being authentic. I remember inviting my sister, who of course was raised in the Catholic Church like I was, and after church, everyone's talking, hanging out, doing their thing. And later on, my sister said to me, "You know everybody at the church," which was in many ways sort of different than my Catholic upbringing, because when Mass was over, you kind of left, and we weren't part of the, you weren't part of the greater conversation of the community. There's something about showing up, being engaged, being in men's ministry, being an elder or a deacon, or just volunteering or serving in some way that changes your spiritual life.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Also, along Kathy, you talk about the church being a big part of that. It was the same thing with me. When I got saved, I went both feet into the church. I immediately got in the choir and involved in ministry. There were services several times a week. I was there every time the door was open. I mean, my life was just drastically changed.
But Eddie, you got saved.
I did.
What happened?
I did.
You were at one thing and something happened.
Yeah.
How'd you get saved?
Through a friend. Actually, a friend of mine had gotten saved and witnessed to me, invited me to church. And I had already been praying to God personally about some personal issues. Yeah. And my friend got saved and invited me to church, and my heart was already, like you said, was ready. He invited me to a concert that the choir had that I went to, and that was the first time I really felt God really dealing with my heart, was at that concert. So, and when I got saved, I mean, it was just, I went all in. I mean, I had immediate desire to go to church, to read the Bible, to pray. It was really a change. Not that I was this wicked, but there was a change in me.
You're different.
And I was a different person. I knew that immediately. So the church was huge. I needed a lot of activity to be involved in.
You needed stuff to do and to stay with it. Yeah.
And so that was part of it. And also, there were a lot of people in the church who were the same age as me.
That was
helpful.
Huge.
It was a very young church.
Yeah.
The choir, everybody in the choir was my age. Or a few years younger or older.
Yeah.
So that was huge. I was having a ball.
Yeah.
And we traveled a lot, and I just loved it.
That's super cool.
Yeah. There was just nothing, not till I just never looked back.
Excellent.
I just never looked back.
Justin, how about you?
Yeah, I think similar to Kathy, growing up in the church, and also I grew up before there was a time where we had children's church. And so I was in
That's interesting. You had to
2.5, 3 hour service every Sunday.
Oh, no children's church.
No
you
children's
sit
church.
there.
And we dressed up. So I'm putting on slacks and a suit every Sunday.
Oh my gosh.
And I think my kind of salvation process was gradual, but what that taught me was being a Christian and following Jesus is not about you and what you want. You will prioritize learning about and knowing what God wants from you. And I'm not saying children's church is bad or wrong, but I think it gave me a deep sense of like, oh, I have to discipline myself to learn and to find out what God wants from me. And I can't just like have this be something that's spoon-fed to me. I have to be able to pay attention. I have to be able to set aside my own desires, my own wants, and I have to see what the Lord has. And I think
that made you into who you are now.
I think it was very formative. And it's a long process, right? It's your whole childhood where you're sitting in church every day for 2.5, 3 hours, uncomfortable, can't run around, can't be, but I think it was incredibly formative for me.
Wow.
That's really excellent.
That's really, really interesting. Okay, we're going to step away again. Come back. We're going to continue our conversation, Justin and Eddie, about what church means, what our walk has looked like, and all sorts of other stuff we're going to hit when we come back in the ride home.
WORD.
The biggest annual outdoor celebration of Christian music happens right here in Pennsylvania, and Word FM is making it easier for you to go. Creation 2023. This year's lineup includes Katie Nicole, We the Kingdom, Big Daddy Weave, Mac Powell, Micah Tyler, Switchfoot.
Very excited. Yes, I am.
Why pay full price? As a Word FM listener, your ticket is 50% off.
Did you get your tickets?
Go to wordfm.com for access to your half-off tickets for Creation 2023.
If you've heard any of our radio commercials here on Word FM, you know that we like funny stories that make us smile. This is not one of those commercials. I read this week that over 1/3 of U.S. adults now owe more in credit card debt than they have saved. Add in the fact that milk and gas and kids' clothes and everything is out of control. And I think it's fair to say it's a scary time for a lot of good people. It's Ryan from United Faith Mortgage. And if that's you, I do believe a cash-out refinance, pulling out some of the value your home has earned the last few years, could be a saving grace. Yes, mortgage interest rates are up, but credit card rates are about 3 to 5 times higher. We've helped hundreds of listeners do this, using a cash out to rid of the credit card debt and then saving some extra aside for the road ahead. And it's undoubtedly a life changer for many. If you'd like to chat about your situation, we are United Faith Mortgage.
United Mortgage Corp, Melville, New York. NMLS number 1330. Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities. Mortgage lender license 22672.
It's no secret that this economy is taking its toll on us. But I've got some important news that could really help. If you're facing $10,000 or more in credit card debt, medical bills, or other unsecured debt, you need to know that you may not be required to pay it all back. There are special programs that can significantly reduce the amount you will owe if you qualify. This isn't bankruptcy or a high-interest debt consolidation loan. These are programs that credit card companies don't want you to know about. Ones that offer Americans struggling with overwhelming credit card debt savings and real debt relief faster than thought possible. Accredited Debt Relief has a special hotline to learn all about these programs and what savings you qualify for. They've helped qualified consumers with over $1 billion in debt and have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. So call the Accredited Debt Relief hotline now for this free information. Call 800-786-2300. 800-786-2300. That's 800-786-2300.
Whose rulebook do you want to play by, the government's or your own? This is Jay Hagerman of Abernathy & Hagerman. Without a proper estate plan, many families end up playing by the government's rulebook and losing a lot of what they'd intended to leave to their families. That's why Abernathy & Hagerman presents free, ongoing estate planning workshops with attorney Dan Reimer to help you protect what's yours and make sure the government plays by your rules. The next one's happening soon. For details and to attend, visit a-h.law.
We've been spending this hour with Eddie Jones and Justin Coaxum from Eternal City Church in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. We're talking about men's ministry and then about spiritual formation. But guys, we're always interested in people's churches and what goes on in the church. Talk about Eternal City, Justin.
Eternal City is, what are we, 6 years old now, Eddie? 6, 7 years?
Nine in July. Yeah.
Wow. It's gone by faster than I thought.
Yeah.
We are in the heart of Wilkinsburg, Sunday evenings, 5 p.m., and we're open to the community. So we'd love to have people come out and join us. We have Sunday services and then small groups that meet throughout the week. And then as you've heard us talk about, men's ministry that's ongoing, as well as a women's ministry that started before the men's ministry. So the women got it together before we did.
Interesting. Now, I first heard about you guys.
Usually how it happens.
Do we go back to the men's ministry yet?
Right.
You should consider crafting.
I don't think we can get men to do that.
Stop now.
And then at least not stay.
Okay, now we first heard about you guys because you're intentional together, black and white together, which it's like some weird thing, but it's the truth of where you are, right?
Oh yeah, that's where we are. Yeah,
absolutely. We're in Wilkinsburg,
multi-ethnic church. Yeah,
multi-ethnic. Yeah. So what's that like? I mean, talk about, because it's uncomfortable. The race conversation is always weird for people to kind of go, am I going to offend somebody? Am I going to make somebody angry? How do you work that in the pews? Or maybe you don't at all, and it's just a thing.
Well, let me answer that because I was a visitor at the church, and I'm white, and it's not like that was we never talked about it.
Not a focus.
Yeah.
It never came up.
But you come together. It has to come up occasionally.
Occasionally, yeah. And the thing with the men's group, obviously, you have black men and white men in the group.
Yeah.
So which is great, which is awesome. Because you don't just have one perspective, one ideology or idea or whatever. So, but yeah, that's part of who we are intentionally. And when it comes up, we deal with it. We talk about it as need be. and let the chips fall where they may.
Well, I think
seriously, but we just
a men's ministry allows you to build trust outside of just talking about the things that make us on the surface perceptively different. And I think that actually helps a lot to be able to go deep with someone beyond just talking about we have different backgrounds and upbringings. And I think particularly for the Foundry, getting men who are of different backgrounds, older, younger,
black, that's another thing,
white, different socioeconomic statuses, guys that have PhDs, guys that work in a foundry, literally, and everything in between. I think that's all beneficial. And I think doing it in ways where it's like, we're going to talk about race, or we're going to talk about, people who make more or less money. It's like, no, we're going to help each other grow. We're going to be vulnerable with each other, and we're going to grow together as men. And when those things come up, you now have
a safe space,
and you trust this person a little more than you did when it was just like, hey, you don't know this person, but talk about race with them. That's much more difficult.
Yeah, and we have each man is assigned another man as a quote unquote accountability partner, if you would have you, and sometimes it's a black man and a white man who are paired up together, and that's great. And so you have that too. So, but those things are, like Justin said, are necessary and beneficial. I think that's beneficial in the long run for everybody, for the church as a whole, and also for the members individually.
Fabulous. Yeah. How about a web address? You guys have contact information? People are listening going, well, I'll make a visit here.
EternalCity.org.
Yep. EternalCity.org. Yeah, we have a Facebook page.
Yep. Facebook, Eternal City. Well. Yep. That's the most active. Yeah.
And we also have a YouTube channel.
That's right.
Eternal City on YouTube, where all of our sermons are there. We live stream every Sunday.
Fabulous.
And all our sermons are on our YouTube channel, Eternal City Church on YouTube.
Excellent.
And it's a really warm congregation.
Yes,
we had a terrific time when we were there.
We love each other.
Okay, so 4 o'clock, we talked about First Pres Downtown, which is celebrating its 250th anniversary next month.
Yep.
And here you guys are 9 years into it.
Old. Yeah.
Long may you live.
Yeah.
Right?
Amen.
Live long and prosper.
Great 9 years.
Yeah. Hey, Justin, Eddie, thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
By here.
Like
this
when
is
you
good.
guys are here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
What's the address again?
The address is eternalcity.org.
13. Oh, I'm sorry. The web address. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Address, eternalcity.org.
Yep.
And then
1300 Swissvale Avenue in Wilkinsburg.
I know it well. Okay, go Swissvale.
Yes. All right.
When you pray to God, what do you say to Him about yourself and your family?
I
ask God for strength and courage with my kids. I know God doesn't ever give any pain without relief, so I ask Him to keep giving me strength to better raise my kids. Maybe put someone on my path that'll make a difference in my life.
You can be an answer to the prayer of a mother like Nirlan. My name is Anitra with Food for the Poor, and we're inviting you to be a part of the miracle story that God is telling in the lives of families throughout the Caribbean and Latin America. Today, your one-time gift of $144 is going to provide a family of 4 with food for a year. Click on the Give Food banner at wordfm.com or text Send Hope, one word, to 91999, and you'll receive a link to give your best gift.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. Very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 844-45-BIBLE. That's 844-45-BIBLE. 844-45-BIBLE.
If you have an IRA or 401k, please listen closely. My name is Jason Hansen. I'm a former CIA officer and New York Times bestselling author. Throughout my career, let's just say I've been in some hairy situations. And I believe right now the biggest threat facing Americans is they need to protect their wealth, which is exactly what I'm doing for my wife and 6 kids. And I believe the ultimate ultimate safe haven is physical gold and silver. You can protect your hard-earned retirement assets with a tax-free loophole that allows you to convert your retirement into physical gold and silver. The folks I use are Advantage Gold, and believe me, I've investigated the heck out of all types of people. Advantage Gold is the nation's highest-rated gold company. They have the best process, pricing, and service. If you want to get your free gold and silver investment kit, please contact Advantage Gold right now, and you'll see how easy it is to protect yourself with precious metals. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Call 800-900-8000.
If you could live anywhere, by the sea, in the city, up in the mountains.
That's a good question. I definitely pick by the sea.
Me too.
Or by some body of water.
100%.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, so some people, in my experience, are ocean people. Some people are mountain people.
Yep. My family, which is unfortunate for me, they want to go to the mountains.
Okay.
Me, I would prefer to be at the ocean or by some body of water.
Sure.
But I see a piece today.
Both are great. Who are we kidding?
Yeah, of course. But, the water.
Yeah.
Study finds says, here's why living in the mountains could be the best thing for your health. So they say if you want the secret to a healthier life, it might be to move to the mountains, because a new study finds that 2 million people who live at an elevation of more than 4,500 meters, which is about the height of Mount Rainier, Mount Whitney, and many Colorado and Alaska peaks, appear to have lower rates of metabolic diseases such as diabetes and coronary heart disease. The new study suggests it's not just the daily treks up the mountains that leave them in tip-top shape. Researchers in California say that the reason behind their good health stems from the low oxygen levels from living at higher elevations. Understanding how low oxygen levels affect health could lead to some new strategies for treating metabolic diseases.
Really? Of course, if you're living at the height of Mount Rainier, that's... Where are we all going to climb to the top?
Well, you think about Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or
that's
Wyoming,
way up there. Yeah.
Right. Montana.
So low oxygen levels, I guess, is the key, what they're saying. The key to it.
If there's not water, to me, it's not a vacation. And that's only because I grew up in Pittsburgh surrounded by water, and I spent my whole summers at a lake all the years of all my formative years.
Formative, yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
So the mountains are terrific. It just, I'm always looking for, is there a pond somewhere around?
Or I just want to hear the sound of the ocean. That's just really what I want to hear. And a white noise machine's not going to do it. Mm-hmm. you gotta have the real thing, do you not?
Speaking of a white noise machine, you kind of mocked my white noise machine. Yeah, a little bit. It's okay. It's not like I can't take it. But I put it on last night, and of course, it makes me instantly happy.
Really?
Yeah.
I have no desire for that.
Oh, see, I like
silence.
Lex, do you have a white noise machine?
No, but I do have a fan in my room I turn on.
Yes.
That kind of acts as white noise.
That is exactly
it's also
what it
cooling.
Is.
So
I love it. I love a fan. I'm
not doing that.
Okay, so here's the thing. I was on my iPhone last night, and an ad came up for an app that produces brown noise. Have you heard of brown noise?
No. What is brown noise?
I don't know exactly. It's like white noise, only it sounded softer, not in volume, but kind of in its equalization. It was a little softer.
Okay.
Listen, I got to tell you this. When I heard the brown noise, I mean this sincerely. I instantly relaxed.
What?
Like there was I'm not
Something
kidding.
new I gotta look
there
at?
was something about it.
Okay, maybe brown noise is because outside of our bedroom windows, we often hear, which I love, the sound of the train in the distance.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Everybody loves the sound of a train in the distance.
I love that.
Okay. Maybe that's brown noise.
Brown noise is also known as Brownian noise because its change in sound signal from one moment to the next is random. It's a type of low-frequency sound produced by the same process that causes so-called Brownian motion. It has nothing to do with color. Instead, it gets its name from the 19th century Scottish botanist Robert Brown, who discovered a certain kind of random microscopic motion. It's also known as red noise, characterized by a heavy emphasis on low-frequency sounds.
Okay, so now you're going to get a new noise machine?
I seriously thought, how do I... But, the thing that they're advertising is something as an app I have to pay for.
Yes, of course.
Well, I already have a white noise machine. I can't pay for a brown noise.
Ride Home with John and Kathy, a production of Salem Media Group.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau at townhall.com. Kevin McCarthy recently gave Tucker Carlson the surveillance video of January 6th. Until now, only selected clips were released by the January 6th committee. Based on them, the left and the media built the narrative of a violent insurrection. But the new excerpts Carlson played raised valid questions about whether the events of that terrible day have been presented fairly to the American people. Many of the violent insurrectionists are shown behaving more like awestruck tourists. The Capitol police officer supposedly murdered by Trump supporters is shown unharmed after the time of his alleged killing. And the QAnon shaman, the face of the violent insurrection, is shown being escorted peacefully through the Capitol. Reasonable people can differ on their conclusions about the sad events of January 6th. But one thing's clear. We still don't have the full story. A full, fair, and prompt investigation